What the hell is this? Security? Since when does the help use the front door?
I'm a guest, ma'am.
The woman burst out laughing, loud.
That's adorable. Honey, you look like you just finished scrubbing a toilet.
Ugly. Head thrown back, hand on chest. She shoved her first stole into Dorothy's hands.
You really have no idea how much I enjoy this, do you? Make yourself useful, servant. Hang this, fetch me a champagne, and find the back door.
Dorothy didn't flinch, placed the stole on the chair, folded her hands, said nothing. But outside, her son had just gotten into a black car, and the next 6 words he utters tonight will cost this woman everything. 6 hours earlier, Carter Stevens stood in front of his bathroom mirror, running a steam iron across a white dress shirt. Slow, careful strokes. The hiss of hot metal against damp cotton filled the quiet penthouse. Upper West Side. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The kind of place most people only see in magazines. But Carter ironed his own shirts. Every single one. Not because he couldn't afford someone to do it. He ironed his own shirts because his mother taught him. Back when they shared a 1-bedroom apartment in West Baltimore. Back when the only iron they had was a second-hand Black & Decker with a cracked handle and a cord wrapped in electrical tape. His mother used that iron to press other people's clothes for $3 a basket. She'd iron late at night after her other 2 jobs were done. The kitchen would fill with the smell of hot starch and the soft thump of the iron hitting the board. 3 jobs, every single day, for 12 years. Night shift mopping hallways at Baltimore General, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then cleaning houses in the suburbs until 3. Then washing dishes at a restaurant on Eastern Avenue until 7. Carter glanced at the shelf above his dresser. 3 things had sat there for years. A photograph yellowed at the edges. Dorothy, maybe 25, wearing a hospital janitor's uniform, holding baby Carter on her hip outside Baltimore General. An envelope. Inside, a rejection letter from Whitfield Academy. Carter had applied for a full scholarship at 16. Had the grades, had the scores. The letter said his application did not meet the standards of community alignment. That was how they said no to a black kid from the projects without saying the actual words. Dorothy cried all night, then woke up at 4 a.m. and took a 3rd bus to a new cleaning job to buy Carter a graphing calculator for his public school math class. And a dictionary, a Webster's, cover torn, spine cracked, pages soft from years of turning. Dorothy bought it at a garage sale for $1 when Carter was 8. Every single night, no matter how tired, no matter how late, she sat on the wooden chair next to Carter's bed and made him learn 5 new words. Some nights she'd fall asleep right there, still in her janitor's uniform that smelled like bleach, her finger resting on the open page. Carter would pull the blanket from his bed, drape it over her shoulders, and keep reading on his own. She told him once, "They can take everything from you, baby, but they can never take what's in your head." That quarter bought a dictionary. That dictionary built a vocabulary. That vocabulary got him into Wharton, and Wharton built Pinnacle Equity Group, $4.2 billion in assets under management. One of the most powerful black-led firms on Wall Street. Carter picked up his phone, called his mother. "Hey, baby." "Mom, you getting ready?" A pause. "Carter, I don't know about tonight. Those fancy parties aren't really my—" "Mom," gentle but firm. "You fell asleep in a chair next to my bed because you were too tired to walk to your own room. You think you don't belong in a ballroom?" Silence. "You belong in every room I walk into. I'll see you there." She sighed. "All right, baby. I'll wear the navy dress." He hung up, looked at the dictionary one more time, grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Across the city, in a limestone townhouse on the Upper East Side, Brenda Holloway sat in front of a vanity mirror the size of a dining table. She adjusted a diamond necklace that caught the light like a chandelier. Brenda was Grant Holloway's second wife, 15 years younger, former pageant queen. Her closet was worth more than most people's homes. Grant appeared behind her. "Brenda, tonight matters. Carter Stevens is the only man who can save this company. Don't make a scene." "When do I ever make a scene?" She smiled at her reflection. Holloway Industrial, steel, manufacturing, government contracts, was bleeding money. 3 generations of Holloway men had built it. Grant was about to lose it. The only lifeline was a $1.5 billion refinancing deal with Pinnacle Equity Group, Carter Stevens' company. Tonight, at the Harrington Foundation Gala, the deal was supposed to become official. But plans have a way of falling apart when people show you who they really are. The Harrington Foundation Gala was already half full by 7:30. 300 guests filtered through the grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. A jazz quartet played softly near the bar. Waiters in black vests moved through the crowd carrying silver trays of champagne and crab cakes. The air smelled like fresh orchids and expensive cologne. Every surface gleamed. Every voice was low, polished, and carefully measured. Dorothy Stevens arrived alone. She stepped through the front entrance in her navy dress, the nicest one she owned. Simple cut. No jewelry except the small gold cross her mother had given her. Flat shoes, beige, worn soft at the heels. 30 years of standing on concrete floors for work had made heels impossible. Her knees wouldn't allow it anymore. She stood near the entrance, taking it all in. The flowers, the music, the golden light bouncing off the crystal. She held her small clutch purse with both hands and smiled. A quiet, private smile nobody noticed. She was proud to be here, proud of what her son had built from nothing. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just wanted to see the ballroom before it got crowded. That was all. Across the room, Brenda Holloway had just finished a warm, animated conversation with another guest. A white woman in a plain black cocktail dress. Nothing designer, nothing flashy. Brenda had hugged her, complimented her earrings, laughed at her little jokes. She'd touched the woman's arm. Two women enjoying a lovely evening, effortless warmth, easy smiles. Then Brenda turned around, and she saw Dorothy. The shift was instant. Her smile dropped, her chin lifted, her eyes narrowed, not with curiosity, but with something colder, something practiced. She scanned Dorothy from the shoes up. Flat shoes, simple dress, no diamonds, no designer bag, black skin. That was all Brenda needed to see. She crossed the ballroom in 4 quick strides, heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. What the hell is this? Dorothy looked up. Excuse me? I said, what are you doing here? The service entrance is around back. Brenda's voice wasn't low. She wasn't whispering. She wanted people to hear. Dorothy smiled politely, the kind of smile that takes effort. Oh, I'm not staff, ma'am. I'm a guest tonight. Brenda tilted her head, then let out a short, sharp laugh, the kind that isn't really a laugh. It's a slap wrapped in sound. A guest. At this event. She gestured around the room. Honey, do you know what these tickets cost? $10,000. Per person. Yes, ma'am. My son arranged. Your son? Brenda cut her off. Another laugh, louder, more theatrical. 2 guests at a nearby table stopped their conversation and turned. Oh, that's precious. Let me guess. He's parking cars downstairs? Or maybe he's one of the kitchen boys washing plates in the back. Dorothy's smile faded, but her voice stayed steady. No, ma'am. I don't care. Brenda waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. I don't know who made the mistake of letting you in, but clearly someone at the door wasn't doing their job tonight. A waiter passed. Brenda snatched a glass of champagne without looking at him, without thanking him. She took a long sip, staring at Dorothy over the rim the entire time, sizing her up, enjoying every second. You know what? Fine. Since you're already here taking up space, she pulled the fur stole off her shoulders and shoved it into Dorothy's hands. The fur was heavy. It smelled like Brenda's perfume. Thick, sweet, suffocating. Make yourself useful, servant. Take this to coat check. Then bring me another champagne. Top shelf, not the cheap stuff they're handing around. Dorothy held the stole for a moment, then placed it gently on the nearest chair. Ma'am, I'm not part of the... Are you still talking? Brenda stepped closer, close enough that Dorothy could see the powder caked in the lines around her eyes, close enough to smell champagne on her breath. I gave you one simple task. 1. Are you too slow to follow it? Or do I need to find someone who actually speaks English? 2 more guests turned, then 3, then 5. A small audience was forming. A semicircle of expensive dresses and tailored suits. No one intervened. No one said a word. They stood holding their glasses, shifting their weight, looking everywhere except directly at Dorothy. Dorothy lowered her voice, still calm, still gentle. I understand perfectly fine, ma'am. I was just trying to explain that I'm here as a guest tonight. My son invited me. Brenda slammed her champagne glass down on the nearest table, hard. The crystal stem clinked against marble. Champagne splashed onto the white tablecloth in a small golden stain. Stop saying that. Each word landed like a hammer strike. I have been coming to this gala for 11 years. 11. I know every single person on that guest list by name, and I can promise you, there is nobody on that list who would bring someone like you through the front door of this hotel. Someone like you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Heavy, bitter, impossible to unhear. Dorothy didn't respond. She didn't argue. She stood there, hands folded, eyes lowered slightly. The same way she had lowered her eyes 1,000 times before. In the kitchens of houses she cleaned. In the hallways of hospitals she mopped at 2 in the morning. In front of women who looked exactly like Brenda for 30 years in 100 different rooms.
It wasn't weakness, it was survival. A reflex built from decades of swallowing words that deserved to be screamed.
Brenda took that silence as surrender. She smiled, satisfied, complete, picked up her glass, then turned to the couple at the nearest table and said loudly, like she was telling a funny story at brunch, "Can you believe this? They'll literally let anyone walk in these days. I swear, next year I'm chairing the door committee myself." The couple offered thin, uncomfortable smiles. They didn't laugh. But they didn't stop her either. Nobody did. Brenda turned back to Dorothy. "All right, sweetheart, show's over. Time to find the back exit." Then she moved. It happened fast. Brenda stepped forward, gesturing wide with her champagne hand. Dramatic, careless, and the glass tilted. Cold champagne splashed directly across the front of Dorothy's navy dress. Dorothy gasped. The liquid soaked through the fabric instantly, a dark, spreading stain from her chest to her waist. The cold hit her skin like ice water. She could smell the sharp bite of alcohol soaking into the one nice dress she owned. Brenda covered her mouth with her manicured hand. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Her voice dripped with mock concern. Her eyes told a different story. They were smiling. "How clumsy of me, but honestly, sweetheart, that dress was already ruined before I touched it." She laughed, that same laugh from the beginning. Loud, cruel, open-mouthed, head tilted back. The ugliest sound in the room. 2 women nearby looked at the floor. A man in a gray suit shook his head but said nothing. The jazz quartet kept playing, smooth and steady, as if nothing was happening at all. Dorothy stood perfectly still, champagne dripping from her dress onto the marble floor in small, quiet drops. Her hands trembling, not from weakness, from 30 years of restraint. She pressed her lips together, blinked once, slowly, lifted her chin 1/2 an inch. She did not cry. She would not give this woman that satisfaction. That's when Grant Holloway appeared. He walked up behind Brenda, adjusting his gold cufflinks, smelling like bourbon and aftershave. He took one look at the scene, Dorothy standing there soaked, Brenda holding an empty glass with a grin, and he chuckled. Not a nervous chuckle, an amused one. "Brenda, what did you do now?" He smiled and slid his arm around her waist. "Nothing, darling, just a little mix-up with the staff."
Grant glanced at Dorothy.
His eyes passed over her the way you'd look at a piece of furniture that ended up in the wrong room. He didn't speak to her, didn't ask if she was okay. "Well, these things happen," he shrugged. "Come on, let's get ourselves a proper drink." They walked away together, arm in arm, laughing softly about something only they found funny. Dorothy stood alone in the middle of that ballroom, champagne still dripping, stain still spreading. 300 people in the room, and not a single one walking toward her. But up in the far corner of the ceiling, a small red light blinked steadily in the dark. A security camera. It had been running the entire time. And 20 feet away, standing behind a marble pillar with her phone still raised, Allison Reed, Carter Stevens' executive assistant, lowered her hand. Her fingers were shaking. She had recorded every single second. Carter's black car pulled up to the Meridian Hotel at 8:15. He stepped out, straightened his tie, buttoned his jacket. The night air was cool, carrying the faint sound of jazz from the hotel's front doors. He took one step toward the entrance. That's when Allison Reed appeared. She came through the glass doors fast, not running, but close. Her face was tight. Her eyes were red. She was holding her phone in both hands like it was something fragile and dangerous at the same time. "Carter," her voice was low but urgent. "Don't go in yet." He stopped. "What's wrong?" "It's your mother." She held up the phone. "You need to see this. All of it." Carter took the phone. The screen showed a video, shaky, recorded from behind a pillar. He could see his mother standing near the entrance of the ballroom, and he could see a woman in diamonds walking toward her. He pressed play. The video was 2 minutes and 43 seconds long. He watched every frame. The first thing he heard was the laugh. That loud, ugly, theatrical laugh. Then the words, each one landing heavier than the last. "Kitchen boys, parking cars, someone like you, servant." He watched his mother get a fur stole shoved into her hands. He watched her place it carefully on a chair. He watched her try to explain over and over that she was a guest and get cut off every single time. Then he watched champagne splash across the front of her navy dress. He watched his mother gasp. He watched the dark stains spread across the only nice dress she owned. He watched Brenda laugh. And he watched Grant Holloway walk up, look at his mother standing there dripping wet, and chuckle. Like it was entertainment, like she was nothing, like she was invisible. The video ended. 2 minutes and 43 seconds. That was all it took to erase a lifetime of dignity. Carter stood perfectly still on that sidewalk. The phone screen went black, and for a moment, all he could see was his own reflection staring back at him. His jaw tightened slowly. His hand gripped the phone so hard the case made a small cracking sound. His breathing slowed, not faster, slower. Controlled, deliberate. He wasn't angry the way most people get angry. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't red in the face. This was something deeper, something quieter, something that had been building for a very long time. Because what he saw on that screen wasn't just tonight. It was every night. It was his mother falling asleep in the wooden chair beside his bed, still in her janitor's uniform, the smell of bleach on her hands, her finger resting on the open page of a 25-cent dictionary. It was the woman who mopped floors at 2 in the morning and washed dishes until 7 at night so her son could have a future. It was 30 years of sacrifice. Every floor she scrubbed, every kitchen she cleaned, every time she lowered her eyes and swallowed her pride, packed into one word: servant. They called her a servant. Carter handed the phone back to Allison. His voice was calm, flat, almost too calm. Who is she? Brenda Holloway, Grant Holloway's wife. Carter didn't blink. Grant Holloway, the Holloway industrial deal. Yes. A long silence. The jazz music drifted out from inside. A couple in evening wear walked past them laughing about something, but Carter didn't move. Send the video to Nathan. Tell him to have the legal team on standby tonight. Allison nodded. Carter, what are you going to do? He didn't answer. He walked through the front doors of the Meridian Hotel. Inside, the gala was in full swing. The ballroom was packed now. Laughter and conversation bounced off the marble walls. Carter moved through the crowd slowly, steadily. People reached out to shake his hand. Mr. Stevens, wonderful to see you. Carter, great speech last year. He nodded, smiled politely, didn't stop walking. His eyes were scanning the room for one person. He found Dorothy in the private lounge off the main ballroom. She was standing at the sink, dabbing carefully at the stain on her dress with wet paper towels. The fluorescent light above the mirror was harsh and unforgiving. It made the stain look worse, made her look tired, made the lines around her eyes look deeper. She didn't hear him come in. Mom! She looked up, and in that split second, before she could rearrange her face, Carter saw everything. The hurt, the humiliation, the exhaustion of a woman who had spent her whole life being treated like she didn't matter, and who had walked into this ballroom tonight hoping, just once, that things might be different. Then the mask went on. She smiled. That brave, practiced smile. Oh, baby, look at you, so handsome. She reached up to adjust his tie, even though it didn't need adjusting. Don't worry about this, just a little spill. I'll get it out. Mom, I saw the video. The smile cracked, just slightly. Her hand stopped moving on his tie. It's nothing, Carter, just a misunderstanding. Some woman thought I was... She called you a servant. She threw her coat at you. She poured champagne on your dress, and her husband stood there and laughed. His voice was steady but heavy. Each sentence landed like a stone dropping into still water. That's not a misunderstanding. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears for the first time that night. She blinked them back fast. 30 years of practice. Baby, please, I don't want you to make a scene. Not tonight. You have your speech and the deal and all these important people. Carter knelt down beside her, took both her hands in his. Mom, you scrubbed floors so I could buy books. You fell asleep in a chair next to my bed every night because you were too tired to make it to your own room. You bought me a dictionary for 25 cents and it changed my entire life. He paused, looked her straight in the eyes. Nobody talks to you like that. Nobody. Not tonight. Not ever. Dorothy looked at her son. She squeezed his hands tight. A single tear rolled down her cheek and she wiped it away quickly with the back of her wrist. What are you going to do? The right thing. He stood up, kissed her forehead, walked back into the ballroom. And that's when Grant Holloway found him. Grant was already 3 bourbons deep. His face was flushed. His smile was wide and eager. The smile of a man who needed something badly and was trying not to show it. Carter! There he is, the man of the hour! Grant extended his hand. Firm grip. Too firm. We need to lock down the Pinnacle deal this week. My board is getting antsy. Carter shook his hand. said nothing. Brenda appeared at Grant's side. She had reapplied her lipstick, fresh champagne in hand. Her smile was dazzling. Warm, gracious, completely manufactured. Mr. Stevens, what an absolute honor. Your work with the foundation is just incredible, truly inspiring. Carter looked at her. The same face that had laughed at his mother 30 minutes ago. The same mouth that had said the word servant. The same eyes that had smiled while champagne dripped down Dorothy's dress. Thank you, Mrs. Holloway. His voice was polite, ice-cold polite. Are you enjoying the evening? Oh, it's fabulous. The venue, the music, everything is just perfect tonight. Good. Carter paused. Let the silence stretch one beat too long. 2 beats. Did anything interesting happen before I arrived? Grant and Brenda exchanged a quick glance, just a flicker, but Carter caught it. Interesting? Brenda laughed. Lighter this time, higher pitched, nervous. No, nothing worth mentioning, just a little mix-up with one of the staff earlier. You know how these events are. A mix-up. Carter repeated the words slowly, deliberately. With the staff. Yes, nothing serious. Just a confused woman who wandered in. Security handled it. A confused woman, Carter said. He let each word land separately. Who wandered in. Exactly, Brenda nodded quickly. Too quickly. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her champagne glass. Carter took a glass of water from a passing tray, took a slow sip, set it down carefully on the nearest table. Security handled it, he repeated quietly. Grant shifted his weight. Brenda's smile flickered, just for a second. Something about Carter's tone wasn't right. Something about the way he was looking at her made the air between them feel thinner. But she couldn't figure out what it was. Not yet. Carter set down his glass. Well, I should get ready for my speech. He buttoned his jacket slowly. I think tonight is going to be one that nobody in this room forgets. He turned and walked toward the stage. Grant watched him go, leaned over to Brenda and whispered, See? Smooth sailing. The deal's as good as done. Brenda sipped her champagne and smiled. Told you. Nothing to worry about, darling. Nothing at all. She had no idea that in less than 20 minutes her entire world was going to collapse. The ballroom lights dimmed. A single spotlight hit the stage. The jazz quartet stopped playing. 300 conversations faded to a hush. Forks clinked against plates one last time, then silence. The MC stepped up to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Equity Group, the Harrington Foundation's largest individual donor, and one of the most respected leaders in American finance, Mr. Carter Stevens. Applause filled the room, warm, loud, respectful. Carter walked onto the stage. No notes, no index cards, just a man in a perfectly pressed shirt, standing behind a microphone, looking out at 300 faces. He found 2 of them immediately. Grant and Brenda Holloway, table 6, front row. Brenda was clapping enthusiastically, champagne glass set aside, smile wide and bright. Grant was nodding, already composing the handshake he planned to give after the speech. The handshake that would seal the deal. Carter gripped the podium with both hands, took a breath. Thank you. Before I give my prepared remarks tonight, I'd like to do something I don't usually do. He paused. I'd like to introduce you to someone. He turned toward the side door of the ballroom and extended his hand. This is my mother, Dorothy Stevens. The door opened. Dorothy stepped out. She was still wearing the navy dress. The stain was still visible, a dark, uneven patch from her chest to her waist. Her eyes were slightly red. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She looked small under the chandelier light, small and dignified and unbroken. The room applauded politely. A few people smiled. Dorothy gave a shy wave, just a small lift of her hand. Carter waited for the applause to die down, then he spoke. My mother raised me alone in West Baltimore. She worked 3 jobs at the same time for 12 years. She mopped hospital floors from 11 at night until 6 in the morning. She cleaned houses in the suburbs during the day, and she washed dishes at a restaurant on Eastern Avenue until 7 every evening. The room was silent. Not a cough, not a whisper. Every single night, no matter how exhausted she was, she sat in a wooden chair next to my bed and made me learn 5 new words from a dictionary she bought at a garage sale for 25 cents. Some nights she fell asleep right there in that chair, still in her uniform, smelling like bleach, with her finger on the page. He paused, let the image settle. She did that so I could stand here tonight. She cleaned your houses, she mopped your floors, she washed your dishes. Not for herself, for me. Carter looked directly at table 6. Brenda's smile was gone. Her face was white. Her champagne glass sat untouched. Grant had stopped nodding. His mouth was slightly open. His hand was frozen on the table. So when someone in this room looks at my mother, this woman who sacrificed everything she had so her son could have a future, and calls her a servant, he let the word hang in the air. It echoed off the marble walls. They're not just insulting her. They're insulting every floor she scrubbed, every dish she washed, every night she fell asleep in that chair, everything she built. 300 heads turned toward the Holloway's table. Every single one. Brenda's hand was shaking. She reached for her champagne glass, then pulled her hand back. Grant's face had gone from flushed to gray. Carter leaned into the microphone. His voice was calm, steady, absolute. You just disrespected the wrong mother. 6 words. The room went dead silent. You could hear the ice melting in the water glasses. Then Carter continued. I was going to announce tonight that Pinnacle Equity Group would be finalizing a $1.5 billion refinancing agreement with Holloway Industrial. Grant's eyes widened. He started to stand. As of this moment, that deal is dead. Gasps. Actual gasps. A woman at table 9 covered her mouth. A man near the bar set down his drink and stared. The room erupted in murmurs that sounded like a wave building offshore. Grant shot to his feet. Carter, let's step outside. Let's talk about this privately. We can work this out. Carter didn't move. You had a chance to act privately, Grant, when your wife was humiliating my mother in front of this room. You stood there, you watched, and you laughed. Grant opened his mouth. Nothing came out. At the back of the ballroom, Nathan Cole, Carter's general counsel, was already on the phone. He caught Carter's eye and mouthed silently, You sure? We lose $80 million in fees. Carter looked at Nathan. Then he looked at his mother, standing at the edge of the stage in her stained navy dress, her hands still folded, her chin still lifted. He looked back at Nathan. Then we lose $80 million. Dorothy closed her eyes. A tear, just one, rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away this time. She let it fall. The ballroom was electric. 300 people staring at the Holloways. 300 people who had just watched a son choose his mother over $80 million. And at table 6, Brenda Holloway sat frozen in her chair. The woman who had laughed the loudest, now unable to make a single sound. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The ballroom was frozen. 300 people holding their breath, eyes locked on table 6. Then Brenda stood up. Her chair scraped against the marble floor. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. Her legs were unsteady. Her hands were trembling. She looked up at Carter on the stage, and for the first time that night, her voice cracked. Mr. Stevens, this is a misunderstanding. I swear to God I didn't know she was your... Finish that sentence. Carter's voice came through the microphone. Clear, calm, devastating. Brenda froze. Go ahead, Mrs. Holloway. Finish it. You didn't know she was my... What? My mother? He paused. Would it have mattered if she was someone else's mother? Would you have treated her differently if she was nobody's mother at all? Brenda's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I just thought she looked like... She looked like what? Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Say it. In front of everyone. Say what you thought she looked like. Brenda couldn't. The words were stuck in her throat, the same words she had said so freely an hour ago when she thought no one important was listening. A woman at table 12 whispered to her husband. A man near the back shook his head slowly. The murmurs grew louder. Not sympathetic murmurs, judgmental ones. Brenda's face crumbled, not from remorse, from exposure. The tears that came weren't for Dorothy, they were for herself. For the humiliation of being caught. For the realization that every person in this room was now looking at her the way she had looked at Dorothy. She grabbed her clutch purse, turned, and walked toward the exit. Fast. Heels clicking unevenly against the marble. She didn't look back. She didn't apologize. She just left. The ballroom doors swung shut behind her. Grant was still standing at table 6. His face was gray. His bourbon sat untouched. He looked around the room, searching for an ally, a sympathetic face, anything. He found nothing. He turned to Carter. Carter, please, you have to understand. Brenda can be... She doesn't always think before she speaks. But this deal... Holloway Industrial employs 9,000 people. If this falls through... That's not my problem anymore, Grant. Carter, I'm asking you, man to man. Man to man? Carter repeated. You stood 10 feet away from my mother while your wife called her a servant and poured champagne on her dress. And you laughed. Don't talk to me about man to man. Grant's jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists at his sides. He took a step toward the stage. You can't do this. You can't. We have a verbal agreement. My board is expecting... Your board should have expected you to act like a decent human being. That's not my failure. It's yours. Grant lunged forward, reaching for Carter's arm. 2 security guards stepped in immediately, one on each side. They gripped Grant by the elbows and guided him backward, firmly, professionally. Get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? The same words his wife had used, just louder, uglier, more desperate. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Security escorted Grant toward the side exit. He was still shouting when the doors closed behind him. His voice echoed down the hallway, then faded. The ballroom exhaled. At the back of the room, Nathan Cole ended his phone call and nodded at Carter. The legal team was already drafting the formal termination notice. By midnight, Holloway Industrial's deal with Pinnacle Equity Group would be officially, legally, permanently dead. Allison Reed, still standing behind the marble pillar, forwarded the security footage and her own phone recording to Pinnacle's legal department and PR team. Time-stamped. Backed up. Ready. And then something unexpected happened. One by one, guests began approaching Carter as he stepped off the stage. Handshakes. Firm ones. Real ones. You did the right thing. A silver-haired executive. I've seen how they treat people at their country club. This was a long time coming. A woman in a red dress. We had a similar experience with the Holloways 2 years ago. Nobody said anything. A man in his 60s, quietly. I wish I had. The wall of silence was breaking, one voice at a time. Carter didn't celebrate. He walked off the stage, crossed the ballroom, and found his mother still standing by the side door. Small, quiet, stained dress, hands folded. He took her hand. Let's go home, Mom. The video hit the internet at 6 a.m. the next morning. By noon, it had 4 million views. By midnight, 15 million. By the end of the week, it had been shared, reposted, screen recorded, and subtitled in 23 languages. Someone had leaked Allison's recording. Not the security footage, the phone video. The one shot from behind the pillar. Shaky, raw, unedited. Every word Brenda said was audible. Every laugh, every insult. The sound of champagne splashing against fabric. Dorothy's gasp. And then, silence. The long, terrible silence of a room full of people who did nothing. The internet did not stay silent. Within 48 hours, 2 hashtags were trending worldwide. The first was #ServantGate. The second was #DorothyDeservesBetter. The comments section became a courtroom. Millions of strangers who had never met Dorothy Stevens watched that video and saw their own mothers, their own grandmothers, their own stories. The woman who cleaned offices after midnight. The father who drove a cab 16 hours a day. The immigrant parent who worked 3 jobs and never complained. Dorothy wasn't just Dorothy anymore. She was everyone's mother. News networks picked it up within days. CNN ran a 12-minute segment. MSNBC led with it at prime time. Local affiliates in Baltimore, New York, and Washington all covered the story. A clip of Carter's speech, the 6 words, was played on loop across every platform. Cable news panels debated it. Social media influencers reacted to it. A retired senator posted a 3-minute video calling it a mirror held up to American society. And then came the consequences. Holloway Industrial's stock opened Monday morning down 18%. By Wednesday, it had dropped 31%. By Friday, 40%. $4.2 billion in market value, erased in 5 trading days. Investors pulled out without phone calls, without explanations, just sell orders. Analysts downgraded the stock to sell. Financial commentators on CNBC used the words reputational catastrophe. 3 major banks that had been considering alternative financing quietly withdrew. Nobody wanted their name anywhere near the Holloway brand. Not anymore. The government contracts came next. Holloway Industrial held 4 federal manufacturing contracts worth a combined $600 million. 2 were suspended pending review within 10 days. A third was pulled entirely after a congressional subcommittee cited reputational concerns inconsistent with federal partnership standards. The board of directors moved fast. An emergency session was called on a Tuesday night. 14 members in a windowless conference room. No cameras, no press. Grant sat at the head of the table, the same seat his father and grandfather had occupied before him. The vote was unanimous, 14-0. Grant Holloway was removed as CEO effective immediately, ending a family dynasty that had lasted 61 years. He was replaced by the company's chief operating officer, a woman named Patricia Dawson, who released a 1-paragraph statement. Holloway Industrial does not condone discrimination of any kind. "We are committed to rebuilding trust with our partners, our employees, and the public." Grant did not release a statement. His attorney released one for him. It said he was stepping back to focus on family. Brenda's fall was quieter, but just as complete. The Harrington Foundation removed her from its host committee within 72 hours. The same gala she had attended for 11 years, the one she had bragged about chairing, would never have her name on the invitation again. 2 country clubs, the ones where she had hosted brunches and charity luncheons for years, voted to revoke her membership. Former friends stopped returning her calls. Her social media accounts went private, then disappeared entirely. A woman who had spent her entire adult life building a public image of grace and generosity watched it dissolve in less than a week. Then came the lawsuit. Nathan Cole filed it on Dorothy's behalf in New York State Supreme Court. The charges were straightforward: intentional infliction of emotional distress and assault. The champagne thrown on her dress, captured on camera, classified as unwanted physical contact. The filing included the security footage, Allison's phone recording, and sworn statements from 4 gala attendees who had witnessed the incident. Brenda's legal team pushed hard for a settlement. They didn't want a trial. They couldn't afford one, not financially and certainly not publicly. Every day the case stayed in the news was another day the Holloway name sank deeper. The settlement was reached in 11 weeks, $2.8 million, paid in full. No admission of guilt, but the video had already served as judge and jury in the court of public opinion. Dorothy accepted the settlement. Then she did something nobody expected. She donated every cent. All $2.8 million went to the Dorothy Stevens Scholarship Fund, a new foundation providing full tuition for first-generation college students in Baltimore. The same neighborhood she had raised Carter in, the same schools she had fought to keep him in, the same streets she had walked home on at 6 in the morning, still wearing her hospital uniform, too tired to feel her own feet. When a reporter asked why she gave it all away, Dorothy shrugged and said, "That money came from pain. I wanted to turn it into something that doesn't hurt." The announcement made national news. A second wave of donations flooded in, from corporations, from individuals, from strangers who had watched the video and wanted to do something. Within 3 months, the fund had grown to $8.5 million, enough to send over 200 students to college. Carter used the moment to launch something of his own. He called it the Dignity Initiative, a corporate training program designed to address racial bias at the executive level. Not a pamphlet, not a webinar, a real program funded by Pinnacle Equity with real accountability built into every module. 12 Fortune 500 companies adopted it within 6 months. And Dorothy, the woman who had stood in that ballroom with champagne dripping down her dress and hadn't said a word, was invited onto national television, morning shows, evening news, a prime time special. She didn't talk about Brenda. She didn't talk about the lawsuit. She didn't talk about the money. She talked about the dictionary. "I cleaned houses for 30 years, she said, sitting in a studio chair with her hands folded in her lap, the same way she had folded them that night. Every single night, I came home smelling like bleach, and I sat next to my son's bed, and I made him learn 5 new words. I didn't do that so people would respect me," she paused. "I did that so he would respect himself." The clip went viral, 40 million views in 4 days. Dorothy Stevens, the woman who had been called a servant, had become the most respected mother in America. 6 months later, the porch hadn't changed. Same wooden railing Carter used to lean against when he was 10. Same 2 chairs, metal, rusted at the joints, cushions flattened from years of use. Same crack in the old concrete step. Baltimore was quiet this evening. The sun was low, painting the row houses in soft orange light. A neighbor's sprinkler clicked in the distance. Somewhere down the block, a kid was bouncing a basketball on the sidewalk. Carter and Dorothy sat side by side, iced tea sweating in tall glasses on the railing. No phones, no assistants, no town cars. Just a mother and her son on the porch where it all started. Carter reached into the bag he'd brought and pulled out something small, the dictionary, the Webster's. Dorothy looked at it and laughed softly. "You still have that thing?" "It's been on my shelf for 20 years, Mom. It's never going anywhere." He opened it carefully. The cover was torn. The spine cracked with a familiar sound. The pages were soft and yellow at the edges, worn thin by thousands of small fingers turning them under lamplight. He turned to the first page. There, in faded pencil, in Dorothy's handwriting, the handwriting of a 28-year-old woman who worked 3 jobs and still found time to teach her son the English language 1 word at a time, was a short note in the margin next to the very first entry she had marked. The word was dignity. The note read, "Teach Carter this word first." Carter stared at it for a long time, ran his finger slowly across the faded pencil marks. Then he looked at his mother. "You know, Mom, I don't think Brenda has ever looked up this word in her life." Dorothy sipped her iced tea slowly, looked out at the street, smiled that quiet, knowing smile of hers. Well, that's her problem, baby, not ours. They sat in silence for a while. The good kind. The kind that doesn't need to be filled. The kind that only exists between two people who have been through everything together and made it to the other side. Carter closed the dictionary, held it in his lap, ran his thumb across the torn cover one more time. 25 cents. That's what it had cost. 25 cents for a dictionary that taught a boy from West Baltimore 5 words a night. 25 cents that built a vocabulary, that earned a scholarship, that opened a door to Wharton, that built a $4.2 billion company, that gave a son the power to stand on a stage in front of 300 people and say 6 words that changed everything. 25 cents, and a mother who never quit. Dorothy reached over and patted Carter's hand. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. The sprinkler clicked, the basketball bounced, the sun dropped behind the row houses. And on that porch in Baltimore, 2 people who had started with nothing sat together in the golden light, rich in the only thing that ever mattered, each other. And that's the thing about silence. It's comfortable. It's easy. It costs you nothing in the moment. But in the long run, silence is the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. Because every time we stay quiet, we're telling someone like Dorothy that she's on her own. Dignity isn't something you earn with a bank account. It isn't something that comes with a job title or a last name. It's something every human being is born with. And when someone tries to strip it away, in a ballroom, in a parking lot, in a boardroom, the people who stand up are the ones who change things. So let me ask you this. What would you have done if you were Carter? Would you have canceled the deal? Walked away from $80 million to defend your mother's dignity? Or would you have kept quiet to protect the business and your reputation? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of someone who worked 3 jobs and never complained, hit that like button. Share this with them. Let them know it mattered. Subscribe. We've got more stories like this coming. And remember, Dorothy bought a dictionary for 25 cents. Brenda had everything money could buy. But only one of them knew the meaning of the word dignity. That tells you everything you need to know. A wealthy socialite humiliates an older black woman at a luxury gala, calling her a servant in front of everyone. But what she doesn't know is that the quiet woman she mocked is connected to the most powerful man in the room, and his next words will change everything.